Why the transaction pipeline industry should care about issuance. Hey, yeah, you getting excited? I am, because I am. I'm very excited to tell you about issuance. Little disclaimer though, many of those slides are reused. Because I gave very similar talks 6 months ago at the ETH Staker Summit back in Buenos Aires. But the numbers are slightly updated, and the discourse has been slightly updated as well because the issue is getting more and more dire. And I'm very glad to have had Zach on the stage before me because he prepared the audience on how important this is, even from the perspective of a large group like Grayscale. Just if you want to chat about it, that's my handle everywhere, JDETYCHEY. I host ETCC. I'm glad you're coming to Cannes for the conference. I'll be delighted to have you next year because it's going to be our 10th anniversary. And I'm going to give another talk at ETCC about issuance tomorrow on the cost of inaction. So if you want to do follow-ups, let's do this. So quick thing, issuance is not a new topic. The core of the debate started a year and a half ago. Not a year ago, but a year and a half ago with Hans Gar and Casper coming on stage and saying like, look, it's a poison fruit. Like there's a problem with this. We are printing too much, and we are going to have a lot of problem by printing too much. It's posing security problems, marketability problems. We should act. And when I heard this talk, I was flabbergasted. Like, yeah, this is evident. We should do something. Have we done something? No, actually, we just waited. We keep on postponing. And the more we postpone, the dire of a problem it becomes. So this is us, the ETH holders, having to work for ETH to go up, while you already have the core devs that have to give birth in harm labored and suffering from it, and the lost paradise over there where we were just minting enough ETH. So quick thing from where I come from, I'm an economist by training. I've been solo staking and solo mining before. I'm passionate about Ethereum since its early days. But if you're not from an economist background, we have Stigler that reminds us that information is an economic good and regulatory agencies gets captured. So beware, capture of regulatory agency is a real thing. And we know about this since the 50s. Friedman, of course, like inflation is a monetary problem, always, and we should have simple rules. Simple rules is going to make ETH a better asset to pitch to anyone that has an investment thesis around crypto. And lastly, Hayek, money and prices are essential information. It signals and it helps coordinates. What about rewards? What is the issuance curve right now? The change in ETH supply is pretty simple, a priori. It's the validator rewards minus the burn fees. The burn fees are just extremely volatile. It depends on the market condition, depends on many things that are happening on the chain. And the validator reward is supposed to be simple as well, yet it depends on the participations. If there's only 70% of the network that's participating, you have this curve and the 70% that gets applied to it. So what is the curve? Well, 166 times the number of ETH at stake, assuming that everybody participates. Yeah. So if it's just a curve, it means that in the implementation of the clients, it's pretty fast to change if we decide to change. It's not a hard work to change the issuance. And on the burn fees, we have the 1559. The more N1 block space is demanded, the more we burn. And of course, the more blob space we use, the more we burn. Hence why it's so hard to properly communicate. But what is the issuance thing? How does it work? Like, wait, there's the issuance part, and there's the burn part, and the burn part depends on this, and the issuance part depends on this. It makes things complicated, for sure. So where are we right now? You all know this beautiful graph. We used to have deflationary ETH with the cool meme here, ultrasound money, bad signals. We are now out of the ultrasound regime of ETH since EIP 4844. And in terms of staked ETH, 33.3 million of ETH as the 27th of March, which is roughly 31% of the ETH at stake. 31% of the ETH at stake. More than 30% of the ETH are at stake. That's 2.8 yield, divided roughly 2.75 in issuance, 0.07 in tips, and a bit of MEV. Thank you, block builders. Thank you to the transaction pipeline to give us a little extra on this. And that's an issuance of 0.8 per year, roughly. Compared to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is at the moment around 0.8 as well, because you do 21 million max, and you divide by 2 every 4 years. So in 2 years, for the next presidential election in the US, you will have 0.4. So do we want to be emitting twice as much as Bitcoin in 2 years? I don't think so, and you shouldn't think so either. But more on this. It can be defensive, it can be offensive. This is something that we should own as a narrative, the dilution narrative, how much we print in excess. And of course, as more ETH come at stakes, we issue more. There's a limit to that, 1.66. So if 100% of the ETH are at stake, we just emit 1.66%. That's the max dilution. But if all the ETH are at stake, what are you guys doing? Like, how are you ordering the blocks? Like, if there's no ETH moving anymore. So look, staking protects Ethereum, and too much staking actually threatens Ethereum. And I want you to get out of this with this in mind. And this is the time to act on it. So how did we get there? There's a wonderful article coming up soon by private researchers called Pintail that has I've taken this graph from his upcoming paper that gives you all the big events that we had in the issuance, the ETH at stake situation. Of course, we had the genesis. Before that, we didn't stake anything. And then pretty soon after, like 5 months after, a year and a half after, we had Danny Ryan writing about the risk of liquid staking. We had the SEC against Kraken that said, like, yeah, maybe it's not an unregistered security to stake. Look. And then we have the eigenlayer points, like if you stake and then participate to the eigenlayer thing, like you get it more, and so on and so forth. We have Bitmine starting staking and so on. All of those events are going to have pushed the number of ETH at stake up, and there are more events to come. And unfortunately, I think it's fair to say that we are probably going to end up the year above 40% with the current trend. And there's two things that is important as to why we should reduce issuance. It poses a security problem, and it poses also a marketability problem and a moneyness problem for ETH. So on the security problem, I have to admit, 6 months into preaching the reduction of issuance, I have never, ever, ever met any core dev telling me, like, this is not urgent. Everybody agreed that the security problem is very real. So we have a very wide consensus among the core devs, like, yes, we should tackle that. Like, definitely, yeah, this is a problem. This is a problem. But anyway, let's still see that and talk about it. So the credibility of large slashing events is lower as we get more ETH at stake, because eventually there will be major client implementation that will have a bug. You have a majority bug, and then if everybody has the same bug, everybody will say, like, well, yeah, let's ignore the bug and consider it a feature, and the other ones did bad. The ETH at stake also snowballs. Like Zach mentioned that one of the core devs were starting to put their ETH on Lido because he wouldn't accept the dilution that he was getting. If you are holding ETH and not earning 0.8%, your ETH value is actually getting diluted. So what is your solution? Do you put your ETH on Aave for 1.5, or do you put your ETH on Lido for 2.8? Yeah, it snowballs. And at some points, the average Joe and the average Jane will say, like, hey, there's 65% of the ETH at stake, so I'm getting diluted by 1%, so I should stake as well. And Coinbase is giving me all of those notifications that I should stake. Yeah, let's stake. For sure. There's a snowballing effect on this. And finally, when we have more ETH at stake than needed, it means that we have less ETH that can come at stake to defend the network. If some actors start to behave badly, if some actor gets too centralized in terms of amount of ETH at stake, or gets too big of a share in the overall ETH at stake, we should be able to have ETH in reserve to come at stake. And the more we go at stake, the less we have those kind of reserve. On the marketability and moneyness side, it was way better explained than I will by the gentleman from Grayscale, but the marketability of ETH is much easier if we can have a simple thing like it's ultrasound. The supply, it's going down. Why is it going down, you ask? Well, because we have lots of usage. That would be great to be there, at least to be in the ultrasound regime in terms of marketability, but we can be at least in a sound regime, say like, oh, this is our issuance rule, it's max this percent, it's max 0.5, let's say. Plus, beyond requirements of the security of ETH, and there's also consensus right now between 20 and 30% is more than enough to secure the network. Beyond this, we are printing with a decreasing amount of security, or eventually also a negative increased amount of security at some stage. So we are printing for an externality that is negative. We shouldn't be printing for this. And about LSTs, since it's a very, very, very simple way to stake, and it's also something that wasn't considered in the initial design of proof of stake, LSTs, as we get into more and more staking, can replace the ETH as the money of our network. And this is a problem because we go from neutral money to governance money. And that's a big problem. Like, what will the gentleman that doesn't have ETH say is like, oh, well, maybe I should buy it, but should I buy the governance token or should I buy the money itself? Well, turns out that buying may not even be an option. So there's sometimes a false perception that when all the ETH are at stake, there's no more ETH on exchange, so the price can only go up. Well, when there is no ETH to buy on exchange, there is no liquidity depth, so there's mostly price swings and it's mostly downwards. So removing ETH from the market and putting them at stake is not something that's going to get us to better value of ETH, quite the contrary. Did I skip something? No, yeah, here it is. I'm a staker, and I think my yield is fair. And you should as well think your yield is fair, but the yield is to compensate for your operational risk. It's also to compensate for your opportunity risk, because your ETH are not available to sell right away if you have to afford a medical urgency or things like that. And you have also a liquidity risk, because like the market has downturned and your ETH has locked. Your ETH are locked. We have a pretty good signal right now that we are paying too much, because those risks can be priced differently and compared to other form of yield. And it turns out that the yield is very, very attractive compared to what you can get on the market. So we are in some way inflating the incentive, or nudging the incentive for people to go at stake, while we shouldn't do so. And there's an enduring loop like on this, because the more ETH we go at stake, the less security the next ETH is giving, and eventually negative security is given by the next ETH, because we are depleting the amount of ETH that are available in case of emergency. But also the price erodes, and so the cost of attack goes down, and so we end up in a very bad situation. So compared to what we had in the previous years back, it's been 6 years since we have been using the same curve. In the whole history of Ethereum, we never had used the same curve on the reward for something. Like anyway. Many reasons why we should lower this curve. The Lindy effect, like right now we have used smart contract to stake for a long time, so there's less chance we find a bug. You have a better record security, better slashing protection, better regulatory check, client diversity, and blah, and blah, and blah. The conditions that we have right now are nowhere near what we had in 2020. Remember, when we opened staking, we didn't even know when, if, and how we were going to be eventually able to unstake. So we picked a curve, just saying like, hey, we need at least 15% to participate. Yeah, it would be good to have 15%. So what are we going to give? Well, at 15%, we should give them 15% yield. Okay, let's go down this way. Well, maybe that's going to be attractive enough. Yeah, let's see. And fortunately, it was attracting enough. But 6 years later, like we can withdraw and enter. We have liquid option. We have many different things to do so. So my point is that the risk premium at staking will continue to go down. So we have to act. We have to act right now. We have a massive inflow of institutional adoption. We have a somehow clear winner on the LST that's going to continue, because it's in its best interest to continue attracting more ETH in its liquid staking setup. And ask yourself also the question, why am I getting 3% by having my ETH at stake when I'm only getting 1.5 on Aave? Does it mean that Aave is, oops, sorry. Yeah, that wasn't the call I was expecting. Like, we made it, it's okay. Now we can we can lower the issuance. It's the call for Vitalik saying, okay, let's reduce the issuance. No, this is something that we have to collectively push for right now. So compare the yield you can get on DeFi compared to the yield you can get on staking. Is staking twice as risky as putting your ETH on Aave? Well, so some gentlemen at the EF and at other research institutions, notably Julian, has been comparing the market inefficiency between the yield you get on a smart contract like Aave and the yield you get on at stake. And it's that there are clear signals that we may be inflating the issuance by paying too much. And by the way, the largest LST provider, Lido, 4 years ago, asked itself the question, like, should we restrain ourselves? Like, no, absolutely not. There's no way the Lido will ever restrict itself. It's not in its best interest from a bottom line perspective, but it's not also its best interest from a competitive standpoint. Because if Lido decided to restrict, well, we have Lido number 2, Lido number 3, Lido number 4. So the root cause needs to be addressed. We cannot expect the people to just change and act on themselves. Right after I gave the similar talk at the ETH Staker Summit, this gentleman, Ildobi from, he was at June before, now he's at Dragonfly. He explained that he's been looking at all the movement from the different large ETF providers and large DAT. And he shows that, yeah, they're probably all going to go at stake as they get the permission to do so. So when I say we're probably going to be above 40%, like the only limiting factor is the entry queue capacity, the entry queue bottlenecks. That's the only thing that's limiting us to be above 40% and to enter faster and faster into this snowball effect. So that's why I mean it's urgent. I mean it's urgent to say, look guys, we have this EIP and we plan to ship it on the next fork. So you have 6 months to prepare. Yeah, that's it. Like the new regime is going to be in 6 months, so unstake now. Why not? Some people are very, very sneakily saying, but hey, each issuance is something we only can change once, and we have to get it right the first time. Like, well, at least the last time we got it wrong. So let's change it now. And also, it's a way to postpone. Like, let's do more research. Let's wait for 6 to 7 years. Let's be real sure that we don't touch anything, and that I can continue to get my bottom line for those years. And no, it's not how it works. This is not the Ethereum ethos. We have changed the monetary policy very often time in our history. Look at this. Reduction of the block reward from 5 to 3, from 3 to 2, implementation of 1559. I remember people saying like, but the miners are never going to accept that. Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, and so on and so forth. And we introduced the block market, and we changed the block market afterwards. What the macroeconomic research tells us about money is that it's neutral. Like if you emit more, if everything stays equal, your market cap will stay the same and your price will go down. Long term, money is neutral. Reversely, if you print less and everything stays the same, the price will go up. But at the end of the day, the money is neutral. But the money is also something that fueled the initial economy and the initial adoption. So acting on our economy, acting on our monetary policy is going to be positive for us. And there's a positive relationship between the price of ETH and the security of ETH. So let's make decisions that push the price up and push the security up at the same time. And it's going to be also a much better way to pitch the asset, because the principal is not going down or is going less down, and more likely it's going to go way up. So if you want to get introduced to these topics, there is issuance.wtf with lots of talk that you can peruse and so on and so forth. It's I feel like the reaction from some actors in the market when those debates were popping up was like, do more research, do more research. So the researchers just did a lot of research. And now we are kind of in a research standstill. Like, so we have all of those kinds of curves, we have all those kinds of things. And like, no, I like this one better. This one is red is better than red. We cannot stay in this standstill forever. It's damaging us. It's fairly easy for us around the whole community to agree on a simple rule. Let's call it the diamond rule. Let's do 0.5 max per year. Like, what is the issuance policy of Ethereum? We have to pay for our economic security, and we do so by emitting new ETH, 0.5% per year. Okay, but how does it translate? So we have this curve. We picked it in September 2026. It was implemented, and this is the rule we have. This is the curve we have now. We may change the curve in 3 years. We may change the curve in 4 years. We may change the curve when something arises, but we will keep the rule 0.5. This is a form of ossification we can assume, like 0.5. How much does it go? 0.5. Can it go higher? No. Can it go lower? Yes, it can, because we are also burning. So the more we have adoption, the more we have usage, the better it is. You eventually get back into the ultra-recent regime. So I think it's pretty easy to agree on the narrative that we are going to emit X max per year. And at the same time, the technical debate on the curve will be hard, because some people will say, we are damaging this, we are damaging that. It's bad for this kind of actor, it's good for this kind of actors. But at the end of the day, it's better for everyone. Again, it's not an old debate. Like from back in 2020 and before, we had various really long posts about let's do rather this thing, rather that thing. We didn't really know where we were going with this initial curve. But what we knew is that we didn't want to have more than 30% of ETH at stake. Absolutely not. And now we're in this regime, and we are just looking at the thing like, oh, so the sky is falling. Let's just stand here. Like, it's funny that this mountain is fuming now. Cool. Anyway, we need to frame this as a success for everyone. And it can be so, definitely. For the network, for the stakers, for the holders. We are going to keep ETH as a pristine collateral. The real, very real cryptocurrency that is a store of value is Ether. We have figured out our security budget. No other budget has done so. We are quantum-proof, and we have a fairly simple rule we can apply and abide to for the next 100 years. So what are we waiting for? Seriously. The stakes are quite high right now, and I'm very glad to have a Issuance roundtable hosted by the EF tomorrow at ETC. The ETH Staker Summit will also happen at ETC tomorrow. I'll be giving a talk on the cost of inaction, going deep more into some of those topics. So please come around and say hi. But remember that the phase we are in right now is it's a pretty tough phase. Like we are clearly the leading blockchain in all the metrics that matters, except the market cap, which like still fumbling for me right now. But anyway, when we will be number one, it will be epic. Creating interoperability features, like we announced Easy, Ethereum economic zone yesterday. We have privacy features to ship that are complex, and we need to convince the institutions that this is the right features, and this is on Ethereum that is being built. Scaling the L1 is hard. And also, like continuing to subsidize the adoption with the L2 roadmap is going to cost us hard. So we cannot afford to have weak ETH on this part. We cannot do so. So you have to understand that it's more defensive, but it's also very offensive. Being able to say, like, look, guys, we are the mature ecosystem. We only print 0.5, and we mostly print way less than that. Look at these other chains that are popping up. Alternative layer ones, printing 10%, 14%, giving 99% discount to their super validators, and then giving them 14% returns. Like, how would the institution fall for this kind of thing? The retail did, but they shouldn't fall for this kind of thing. Like, we need to own the narrative on evolution. We are the serious people in the room. And if you want to launch something new, just launch an L2 or become an L2. L2ification is real. This is how real chains succeed. So last thing, we have an evolution that is being considered for Hegota called quick slot. So instead of doing slot every 12 seconds, we may do slots that are dynamic, which means that in order to make those dynamic slots, which everybody will love to have more dynamic slots because you get finality quicker and you get your transaction included quicker. In order to make those changes, we will have to rework a little bit how the rewards are calculated. So let's kill two birds with one stone. Like, change the curve right away. So for the cost of inaction, I think we have a path towards ETH equals 1 million more per ETH, and there is a path where we have to spend $720 million in ETH per year, just in extra printing, and all of those bad things we will have a negative impact on the price of ETH. So come to my talk tomorrow to have more details about that. So coming back to block builders, why you should care. This is also an existential threat for you, because less ETH in DeFi means less arbitrage opportunity. So you should be supporting heavily that less ETH are going at stake and more ETH are flowing into the economy of Ethereum. And also the centralization effect of staking ETH is also going to reduce the landscape for you, because people will go directly to the best givers. So my preference personally is 0.5%. I think it's very memeable and it's something we can definitely afford. Happy to have the debate. Happy to continue on clicking on maybe 0.4, maybe 0.3, maybe it's the croissant, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But we need to change and we need to own this narrative. Right now, nobody's talking about anything except like, hey, when will the war be over? When will it resume? Like, is the adoption of the institution there? Look, guys, everything is happening on Ethereum. We can absolutely not avoid that. And by the way, everything else is immature. Like, give them 5 years and look at it again. 0.5% max per year, and this asset is going to the roof. Staking protects Ethereum. Too much staking threatens Ethereum. Make yourself heard. Change your graffiti. Say, I want less ETH printed. Print less, but more. Go Issuance. Support the EIP. Blah blah blah. It's your time to get heard, and it's your duty to make this change happen. Thank you. I'll be happily taking some questions if we have time.
Let me ask a question from maybe less from the debate about issuance. Is it too much or too less? Because those seem to be loaded topics. But let's just envision a world for a second where there is consensus about the issuance number. And for the sake of argument, let's say 0.5%. Can you just walk me through what it would take if there was agreement among the community about issuance? What it would take, walk me through the process of what it would take to make that governance decision and how soon it would be. Would it be Glamsterdam? Would it be Hagata? Like who makes the decision? What happens, assuming there's consensus?
So the EIP inclusion list for Glamsterdam is already locked up. The one for Hagata is not locked up yet. So the process will be the following. An EIP will be filed saying like, hey, we have an idea to change the issuance. Here's the rationale. So it's a two-step EIP. So first we commit on a rule called the diamond rule, 0.5%. And we think this is the best curve we can get to apply this 0.5%, considering that this will impact this way, the staking as a service, that way, the staking provider, that way, the LST, and so on and so forth. Huge debate on, yeah, but the curve should be this, the curve should be that, and 1.05, 1.06, and then we come to the finalization of the debate at the EIP level. Like, this is solid. Like, everybody has expressed their opinion, and every contrarian agreement has been taken care of, and so on. And so we propose the inclusion of the EIP inside the list of considered EIP for Hagata. So that could happen, like maybe next month we start to find an EIP, and the months after we start to discuss this. So we have heated debate on which curve, which thing, which amount, and so on. The change itself for the clients to be ready to implement that, it's really just a few lines of code, like 166 square root of blah, blah, blah. It's a bit more complicated than that, but usually you are in the realm of 10 to 30 lines of changing this in the clients. So that's what will happen. Like we'll have the debate, we'll consider this, we'll think like the dust stuff settles on all the arguments against doing that. Then the core devs will open the agenda and be like, oh, we need to debate this. So what do you guys think? We have whole implemented this. We think it's important for the security. It's a Swifty change. Oh, we are late. We'll implement this next week. That's it. And then we will have that scheduled for the next fork. So the thing is, right now, I've heard the argument also that changing the thing from one day to the next, you need to give people time to prepare. So we had also some debates about considering curves that are transitionary, like, we change now, and then suddenly we migrate slowly to a new curve. Migration to a new curve means that there's a lot of code to install this migration. I think it's more fair to just say like, hey, we're going to change this in 9 months. So you either exit now or you exit in 9 months, but you have 9 months to prepare for your exit, because anyway, we are going to implement that and we're going to add that. So that's my best case scenario, is that in a few weeks we can start to have an EIP that is being debated, and the community can express itself on the matter, give its feedback, nudge the nudge the curve one way or another, and eventually everybody will agree that this is something that needs to be done. So I think it's a bit late for Glamsterdam, and we need to hear everyone's voice on the matter. But at the same time, just announcing it is preparing the market for this and preparing the stakers for it.
Thank you for all that. Very clear. You talked about 0.5 maybe being the right number for max inflation. How much do you think the shape of the curve matters? The steepness or flatness of the croissant, if you will, is that an important thing? Do you think it doesn't matter all that much? How are you thinking about the relationship between stake rate and inflation rate?
So the shape of the curve is as important as the shape of the Formula One in aerodynamics. Like people are like, "Wow, the shape of the curve! My goodness." Yeah. So I think so far there are like two schools. There are the schools that says like, no, after 35% of ETH at stake, the curve goes to zero or eventually goes negative. So we really push people out. And there is another school that says like, yeah, no, let's aim for the max amount being like 25% and start to have a rapidly decreasing return, or eventually a close to zero return. So there are arguments for both schools. I think the first school is more like, okay, let's push people to really stay under that and guarantee that we don't have more than we need. So it's a bit more supportive to the DeFi ecosystem, because the DeFi ecosystem will have a bigger inflow of ETH resting on smart contracts. But at the same time, it opens up a form of attack that is a discouragement attack. Like, I'm going to stake whatever, and I'm going to take control of the network. So either you accept to have a -1%, or you let me control the network. And the first school is a bit more of my liking. I personally like curves that goes there and then slowly to zero. There's the risk-free rate right now is 0.25%, because we're at 50% of ETH at stake. So what is your ETH doing this? You should withdraw, put them on Aave, bring liquidity or bring something. But I think it's good to have a non-negative risk-free rate from a pure economic standpoint. But at the same time, it's less strict. And I also have the intuition, so like take it with a grain of salt, that having a very, very small interest rate, staking rate, is going to also to be very beneficial for the solo stakers. So people that are there set up at home or set up already paid for, like, yeah, I have labor costs to maintain the thing, but at the same time, I don't have any capital cost for the setup and so on. So I will just continue staking and so on. So I tend to prefer the other ones, but I think it's fair to be like applying a rule and then changing the curve if we don't like it later. Just accepting the rule, just to make the narrative on the network and the assets simple and direct to understand, and also aligned with what we need in terms of security.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Time, guys. See you tomorrow for the big debates.
That's right. And while Sean comes